Aleppo is a city in northern Syria and is the center of Aleppo Governorate, which is the largest Syrian governorate. On the other hand, its official population is more than 4 million, 2004 estimates, and it is also considered the economic capital of Syria. It is located in northwestern Syria, 310 kilometers from Damascus. It is also considered the largest city in the Levant, as it was the capital of the Amorite kingdom of Yamhad, and several civilizations followed thereafter, such as Hittite, Aramaic, Assyrian, Persian, Hellenistic, Roman, Byzantine, and Islamic. In the Abbasid era, Aleppo emerged as the capital of the Hamdanids, which extended from Aleppo to Euphrates Peninsula and Mosul. Aleppo is one of the oldest inhabited cities in the world since the beginning of the 6th millennium BC. Excavations in Tel al-Suda and Tel al-Ansari, located south of the old city, contributed to the fact that the region was unable to win in the later part of the 3rd millennium, at least. This is the first mention of Aleppo in decision-making finance, discovered in the kingdom of Ebla and Mesopotamia, where it had military and commercial superiority. Such a date probably dates back to the trading turning point in the central route between the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia, and at the end of the route that passed through Central Asia and Mesopotamia. For centuries, Aleppo remained the largest Syrian city and the 3rd largest city in the Ottoman Empire after Istanbul and Cairo. As a result, trade to the sea began when the Suez Canal was opened in 1869 and Aleppo began to slowly disappear. Aleppo was the biggest blow at the beginning of the 20th century, when Austria fell after World War I. Its northern parts were separated from Aleppo, most of which were within the northern Syrian provinces, which were annexed to Turkey in 1920 by agreement between Ataturk and the French Mandate authorities. Aleppo lost trade with cities of the special cities that were historically affiliated with the state of Aleppo, such as Gaziantep, Maras, Adana, and Mersin. It also lost important railways that didn't connect it to Mosul. Sykes-Picot used the separation of Iraq from Syria to create a depression that largely developed in the Aleppo regime. In 1940, Aleppo lost its access to the sea after losing its main port on the Mediterranean at Alexandretta. The beginning of the location of Aleppo Pokemon because of the city of Damascus, the capital of Syria. Despite all these strikes, this remains the economic capital of Syria, as it contains the most important industrial factories and is also a diverse center for the agricultural areas in Syria, especially cotton extraction for the city's thriving textile industry. Aleppo and its countryside were famous for many Syrian celebrities until the end of the 50s. The city of Aleppo became a World Heritage Site in 1986. The city won the title of Capital of Islamic Culture for the Arab world in 2006 AD. The Syrian story began. Aleppo was severely damaged, both humanitarianly and economically. They were able to fight and bombard Turkey, and the city's economy stopped, and many of its archaeological landmarks were destroyed, such as the Mantana of the Umayyad Mosque, and most of Aleppo's ancient markets were burned. quick information. As is the case in most ancient cities, several theories have emerged about the name of the city, as it was mentioned in many ancient historical books and documents. Aleppo was mentioned in the number of the kingdom of Ebla in the name of Arman during the reign of Remish ibn Sargon of Akkad in the 3rd millennium BC, while some people believe that it was mentioned in the name of the Naram Sinin obelisk in Diyarbakir, which dates back to the 3rd millennium before the end, in the name of Hilya in the departure of the kingdom of Mari, Tel al-Hariri, and it was called Halbu when it was the capital of the Amorid kingdom of Yamhad in about the year 1800 before the beginning, while the books called it Assyrian is amazing and Khalwan. Aleppo has been mentioned since the 16th century BC as Herbert in Source Antiquities. The name Kalbu was mentioned in one of the texts dating back to the time of Ramses II, while another text dating back to the same era showed the word Halbu as its king was lost to Ramses II as a result of the Hittite king's intervention against the Egyptians in the Battle of Kadesh, while the city was known as Bero ibn Rais, the state of the Seleucids, following the division of the empire of Alexander the Great, while it is believed that Seleucus I Nicator, the founder of the Seleucid rule, named the city Birioa in 312 BC, pronounced in French Ber, after the birthplace of Philip II of Macedon and Alexander of Macedon, and Aleppo continued to bear this blessed name throughout the Greco-Roman and Byzantine eras. Opinions differed about the name Aleppo itself, as some attributed the name of the Arabization of the Syriac word Halba, which means white, so it was called Aleppo. Others said that the word Aleppo is Aramaic and that the Assyrians and ancient Egyptian called it Halbu, while one of the city's historians, Khair al-Din al-Sadi, mentioned that the origin of the word Aleppo goes back to Hal-a-Rab, so it is said Halab, since the meaning of the word Halab is the place and the word Lab means gathering, so the meaning of the word Aleppo becomes the place of gathering. The city was also mentioned under the name Aram Suba, as this name was mentioned in the 2nd book of Kings of the Old Testament. As for the word Al-Shahba, some interpreted it as a meteor, which is white, interspersed white with black, as it was given this title due to the whiteness of its soil and stones. Others suggest that the origin of the word Al-Shahba goes back to a great cow that was said to be milked by the prophet Abraham, so it was said that Al-Shahba is milked. This proposal was met with many criticisms from historians who considered it a pure myth that contradicts science and logic. As for the name in foreign languages, both Alep and Aleppo are used indiscriminately, even though Aleppo is essentially an Italian version of the name. The city of Aleppo was conquered under the leadership of Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah and Khalid bin al-Walid in 637 AD to form part of the rightly guided caliphate, then the Umayyad and then the Abbasid caliphates. In the year 944, it became the capital of the Hammadid state under the rule of Saif al-Dawla al-Hamdani. The city lived a golden age during the days of Prince Saif al-Dawla and was one of the important frontiers for defending the Islamic world against the Byzantine tide. The city was occupied for a short period between the years 974 and 987 during the Byzantine Seljuk conflict. It was besieged Aleppo was also occupied twice during the Crusades in 1098 and 1124, but the Crusader armies were unable to occupy it due to its strong fortification. On August 1124, but the Crusader armies were unable to occupy it due to its strong fortification. On August 1138, the city was exposed to a devastating earthquake that destroyed it and the surrounding areas. It is classified as the fifth earthquake among the most devastating historical earthquakes in ancient times. The city fell under the rule of Saladin during the era of the Ayyubid state since 1183 on January 24, 1260. The city was occupied by the Mongols under the leadership of Hulagu in cooperation with the ruler of Antioch, Muhammad IV. The city was defended by a modest garrison by the Ayyubid king Ghiyat ad-Din Turan Shah. The city fell after 6 days of continuous bombardment with catapults, and the castle fell 4 weeks later. The inhabitants were brutally slaughtered. However, King Turan Shah wasn't slaughtered and was shown respect for his valor, unlike the Mongols' custom. The Mongolian army then continued its advance towards Damascus, besieging it and storming it as well on March 1, 1260. The Mamluks regained the initiative after their victory on the Battle of Ain Jalut on September 3, 1260, under the leadership of King Muzaffar Saif al-Din Qutuz. The Nestorian leader Katbuga, loyal to Hulagu, was killed, and Damascus was retaken 5 days later and Aleppo a month later. Aleppo gained independence from the central Mamluk state in Cairo when the Mamluk king al-Zahir Baybars declared secession and sent his forces in the fall of 1261 to retake the city. In October 1271, the Mongols attacked Aleppo again with an army of 10,000 knights coming from Anatolia after defeating the Turkmen who tried to help protect the city. They succeeded in occupying it and advanced toward Hama, but al-Zahir Baybars prepared a strong army that was able to force the Mongols to evacuate Aleppo once again. Although the Mongols took control of the city again on October 20, 1280 and wreaked havoc and destruction in the mosque and markets. The residents fled towards Damascus, so the Mamluk leader Al-Mansur Saif al-Din Qalawun prepared his forces to respond as soon as the Mongols saw the legions advancing. They retreated to escape beyond the Euphrates River. Aleppo then returned to self-rule in 1317, and in 1400 the Mongol leader Tamerlan captured the city and slaughtered many of residents. It is said that he ordered the construction of a hell of the resident schools, in which 20,000 schools were used. After the Mongols retreated, the Muslim residents in particular returned to seek refuge in the city, while the Christians returned. Some of them who were unable to enter again established a new neighborhood in 1420 outside the borders of the northern wall, which was called the New Neighborhood or Al-Jadida. They played the role of a link in trade between the merchants of Aleppo and the outside world because they enjoyed relative protection from the Crusader kingdoms and Jerusalem and Antioch. Aleppo became part of the Ottoman Empire in 1516, and the population at the same period was about 50,000 people. It was the center of the Aleppo province and the capital of Syria due to its strategic location close to Anatolia. Aleppo played a pivotal role in the Ottoman Empire and was the second city after Constantinople and the main city for trade between the countries of the East and the West. While Western's embassies were located in Istanbul, the main consular tasks were carried out in Aleppo, and starting from the 18th century in particular, European consuls and merchants began to wish to reside in Aleppo with their families, thus establishing dynasties. However, the city's economy was severely affected after the opening of the Suez Canal in 1869, as Damascus revived economically and regained its vital importance as the center of the Syrian capital again after the decline of its star, as in the days of the Umayyads and Ayyubids. The city continued under Ottoman rule until the collapse of the empire. With the end of World War I, the Treaty of Sevres defined Aleppo province as part of Syria, while the Americans were promised the independence of the American plateau by France in the Franco-Armenian Treaty concluded in 1960. But Mustafa Kemal Atatürk rejected this treaty and continued to annex Aleppo, Anatolia and Armenia to Turkey and fought wars for the independence of Turkish territory. The Arab and Kurdish residents of the city initially supported the Turkish struggle against the French, believing that it would bring them independence. Among the most famous of them was Ibrahim Hananu, who coordinated at one time with Kemal Atatürk, but the end was disastrous for Aleppo. With the conclusion of the Treaty of Lausanne, most of the Aleppo province was taken away, with the exception of Aleppo itself and the Alexandretta district. Thus, Aleppo was separated from Anatolia and its cities, which had extensive trade relations. Worse still was the Sykes-Picot Treaty, which divided the Levant and separated it from Iraq. Aleppo's isolation increased even more after the Iskandarian district was also plundered in 1939. Aleppo was deprived of its main port, making it completely isolated. The city is currently one of the largest cities in the Middle East. In fact, the largest of all after Istanbul and Cairo. Aleppo comes in third place. Many civilizations and many nations have passed through Aleppo, making it a global city carrying a unique heritage that is not owned by anyone. Aleppo is also considered the most important city in the world for traditional and street food. The Aleppo civilization has a special impact on everyone who visits. It is a miraculous city in every sense of the word, and a very ancient city that lived in contemporaneity with all the civilizations of region. So it had to be influenced by all the civilizations and nations through which it passed. There is a relatively clear division between the boundaries of the old city and the modern city of Aleppo. The ancient part is located within the ancient city wall, which forms a circle with a radius of 5 kilometers and has 10 gates, with the exception of the Al Jadida neighborhood, which was built after the Mongol invasions in the 15th century, although it is considered part of the old city. In the center of the old city lies the huge Aleppo Cathedral on a high hill, overlooking all the neighborhoods of the old city. In the middle is a wide the Castle Amphitheater, in which many concerts are held. As a city with an ancient architectural style characterized by covered markets, inns, baths, and schools, in addition to mosques and churches, the city is an archaeological treasure that needs constant care and maintenance. The city was clearly replanted after the end of World War II. In 1954, an architectural plan was adopted by the French architect André Gouton, who proposed constructing a number of wide boulevards across the city to accommodate the entry of cars. Between the years 1954-1983, many old neighborhoods were demolished under this pretext for the purpose of expansion, especially in the northern regions such as Bab al-Faraj and Bab Jinin. But the growing awareness of the importance of these buildings eventually led to the cancellation of the Ghatan plan in 1979 and it being replaced by a plan by the Swiss urban engineer Stefano Bianco, which launched the idea of preserving the ancient urban fabric of ancient Aleppo. This paved the way for UNESCO to include the old city of Aleppo as a World Heritage Site in 1986. The city of Aleppo is a commercial city par excellence. The city's strategic location on the Silk Road attracted many residents of all races and beliefs to live there and benefit from its location between China and Mesopotamia to the east, Europe to the west, and Egypt to the south. Aleppo contains the largest covered eastern market in the world. Aleppo is famous for its traditional Aleppo musical bands that sing religious songs and kudud. The residents of the city of Aleppo are famous for their passion for singing and music, and it is considered the capital of authentic singing in the Arab world. The Syrian Song Festival is held annually at the Aleppo Citadel Theatre, and major artists have launched from it, spreading their art in many regions and in various artistic specialties, such as singing, musical songs, Aleppo kududs, religious songs, acting, and others. The city of Aleppo is considered one of the most important cities in the world for cooking, food and cooking. The city won the World Taste Award from the International Academy of Culinary and Taste from France in 2007, but in fact, Aleppo was the capital of cooking much before the Paris Prize. Perhaps the reason is due to the mixing of many ethnic groups in it, which helped in the variety of types of dishes, given that it was part of the Ottoman Empire. It contains many Ottoman varieties, and also because it is an ancient Syrian city through which all human civilizations have passed and inhabited by people from all over the world. Perhaps this is the main reason for the success of its cuisine and its superiority over all cuisines in the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all new. WikiTube, the first audiovisual encyclopedia in the English version.